Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to explain the chapter The Special Prize from New Images textbook of grade 6. So let us start off. I'm going to pause at the end of each paragraph or two paragraphs and I'm going to explain that much. And here in these boxes, you can also find few word meanings which can help you understand the text better. So let us begin reading. What a naughty boy. He deserves to be thrashed. I have also received reports of his getting into fights with other boys. Send for him. Mohan, hey Mohan, the headmaster shouted for the chowkidar. Mohan guessed from the growl in the voice that the headmaster was very angry. He rushed in and asked apprehensively, Yes, sir. Hurry and get the pan of class 5, the headmaster ordered. So here you know that there is a headmaster and he's angry about this boy named Tapan of class 5. And it could be that he's reading Tapan's reports or someone has come here and complained to him that the headmaster speaks like this, right? What a naughty boy, he deserves to be thrashed and all of that. So he calls the chowkidar named Mohan by saying Mohan, hey Mohan, and he asked him to hurry and get Tapan of class 5. So let us read on. Let me introduce the reader to the boy named Tapan. He is the second son of Ratan, the clerk of Padumani village. Although rather thin, he is strong, somewhat dark, and has bright eyes. He is quite good at his studies, but both at home and outside there is no end of his pranks. He is always getting into trouble, but it must be admitted that he is never the first to pick a quarrel. But if anyone offends him, he gives as good as he gets. He is the leader of his age group and is always ready to take up the cudgels on their behalf. He is popular and respected by his companions. After completing primary school at village, Tapan had gone for a year to a high school 15 miles away and stayed with his uncle. Now he is back home and studying at Janatpid High School, which is a mile and a half from his village. He had only been at Janatpid for a month and already there was a complaint against him. So now let me explain this much. So here um, the author introduces Tapan to us, right? And he says that Tapan is the second son of Ratan, the clerk of Padumani village. And even though he's thin, he's strong and he's somewhat dark, and he also has bright eyes. He is also quite good at his studies, but there is no end of his pranks both at home and at school. But it must be admitted that he is not the first one to pick up a quarrel. But if someone offends him or hurts him, he gives as good as he gets. He is the leader of his age group and he is always ready to take up the cudgels on their behalf. He is popular and respected by his companions, but not by anyone else since they feel him as a trouble. So he had gone for a year to high school 15 miles away and there he stayed with his uncle. But now he is back home and studying at Janatpid High School, and it has just been a month here at Janatpid High School and there was already a complaint against him. Harin, the shopkeeper of Padumani village, had complained to the headmaster that Tapan and a number of other boys had thrown stones at his shop the previous evening. So here, this could be why the headmaster began the story this way. What a naughty boy, he deserves to be thrashed, right? It could be because Harin, the shopkeeper of Padumani village, had came to complain to the headmaster about Tapan and the other boys. Here, Tapan had been the ringleader. Tapan came in with the chowkidar and after glancing timidly at the headmaster, stood with his head lowered. Swinging his cane, the headmaster demanded, You are Tapan, aren't you? Yes, sir, Tapan replied politely. Do you know this gentleman? The headmaster asked, pointing to the shopkeeper. Yes, sir, he lives in our village. Well, is it true that last evening you and your friends threw stones at a shop? Yes, sir, it is true that I threw stones at a shop with Ratan and the others. Why did you do that, you rascal? Answer me, the headmaster thundered. So here, at first, the headmaster is acting as though there is nothing wrong. He just wants to know whether the Tapan and his friends threw stones or not, whether that was true or false. So he asks properly, "You are Tapan, aren't you?" And Tapan replies, "Yes." And the headmaster asks Tapan, "Do you know this gentleman?" Saying pointing towards the shopkeeper. So Tapan replies, "Yes, he lives in our village." So again, the headmaster asks nicely, "Well, is it true that last evening you and your friends threw stones at a shop?" So again, this time Tapan is being very honest. That also you can understand. He could have just said no, isn't it? Because the headmaster is asking Tapan. He's not telling Tapan. So he could say no anytime. But yes, he was being truthful and said yes. So he said, "Yes, sir, it is true that I threw stones at a shop with Ratan and the others." And suddenly, when he said yes, the headmaster became furious and asked, "Why did you do that, you rascal? Answer me," the headmaster thundered. Here, the meaning of thundered is shouting in a loud voice. "Sir, this man cheats. He charges higher prices and gives less. He gives goods in a kind of paper bag which is padded at the bottom. The day before yesterday, we bought a kilo of dal from him. When we weighed the contents at home, it turned out to be only 800 grams." So here, Tapan and his friends bought a kilo, that is 1,000 gram. So mainly it means that the paper bag is already 200 grams, and that is why when they weighed out the contents, it turned out to be only 800 grams. Everyone in the village knows about it. When I asked him about it yesterday, he abused me and chased me out of his shop. That is why the other boys and I threw stones at his shop. So here, abusing is wrong, isn't it? So that was the shopkeeper's fault. Everyone in the village knows about it. So yes, what Tapan did was correct, but yes, he could have instead told someone like the headmaster instead of throwing stones, right? But what the shopkeeper did was also very wrong. The headmaster looked at the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper's face was crimson, that is, dark red. But here, in this case, it is dark red from shame. The headmaster thought for some time. Then, turning to Tapan, he said, "Even so, what you did was not right." Yes, it was not right, but what the shopkeeper did was even more worse than what Tapan did. If the shopkeeper is dishonest, it is for the government or the village panchayat to take up the matter. So that was what I was saying. Tapan could have, not Tapan, any one of the village could have gone and told them instead of Tapan taking up the matter and throwing stones, right? "It is none of your business. Hold out your hand." Tapan received 5 strokes of the cane. That means 5 beatings, right? Yes. When he returned to his classmates looked at him and sniggered. There was another incident a few days later. It concerned a fierce ox which was troubling the locality. It had gored several people. If anyone approached it with a stick, it would charge at them. Everyone were terrified of it. The effrontery of the animal aroused Tapan's spirit. During the school break, he brought a stave and a rope and slowly approached the ox. Waiting for the right moment, he jumped on to its back and puts the rope in its mouth as if bridling a horse. So, this is another incident a few days after what happened with the village, the shopkeeper. So, it concerned a fierce ox which was troubling the locality. Gored, the meaning of gored is hurt with the horns or pierced with the horns. So, if anyone approached it with a stick, it would charge at them. So, the stick will not do the trick here. So, everyone were afraid of it and terrified of it. So, the effrontery means the boldness. So, the boldness of the animal aroused Tapan's spirit. During the school break, he brought a stave. Stave is a thick stick and a rope, and he slowly reached the ox. Waiting for the right moment, he jumped onto its back and put the rope in its mouth as if bridling a horse. So that is, bridling is putting reins on an animal to control it. You can find the meanings here. The ox was taken by surprise, but the moment it felt the weight on its back, it started stamping and bucking. Meanwhile, the school break got over. The class had resumed, but Tapan was busy taming the ox. He managed to keep himself on the back of the tossing, bucking Bronco, holding the rope firmly. Bronco is nothing but an untamed wild animal. So here, Tapan did not want, he wanted the ox to become a better animal, and so he began taming it. He did not care whether school class had resumed or not. So the ox crashed into the school compound and then into the room of class 8. The teacher and the students were frightened and scattered in all directions, shoving each other and pushing their way out of the classroom. So here, since you know what kind of ox it isn't a normal ox, right? It is a a bronco type animal. So the ox just crashed into class 8, and the teachers and the students were very frightened and they scattered in all directions, shoving each other and pushing their way out of the classroom. Many of them stumbled and fell in that huge rush. But the teacher, Rajni Saharia, managed to get out of the room and escape unhurt. But what he or she did was wrong, because she should have gone and looked after the small children over there, right? Instead of making herself unhurt. But yes, that is the first concern of everyone, looking after yourself and only then after others. The headmaster flew into a rage. Not only were the students hurt, but even the school building had suffered damage. The headmaster called Tapan again. Tapan appeared. On seeing him, the headmaster's temper boiled over. You are a wicked boy. Why did you lead the ox into the classroom? Speak up, the headmaster demanded, waving his cane. Tapan replied, head lowered, Sir, I didn't lead the ox into the classroom. I was only riding on its back to tame it, and it suddenly ran out of the classroom. Tapan received 15 strokes of the headmaster's cane. His classmates again sniggered and ridiculed him. Now, the meaning of that is laughed at him. He was branded the bad boy of the school. So they started calling him as the bad boy. They gave him a new name. Soon after, a notice was circulated in the school. Tapan was fined 25 rupees for the damage. Now, 25 for us, it isn't too much, but at that time, you just have to add a zero. It becomes 250. I mean, you know, right? When there was a time when even Paisa was there. So for now, I mean, now, if that time, if it was 25, now that much amount is going to be 250 rupees. He was also told that he would be expelled for school if he committed any such offense in future. A few boys who came out of their classes made faces at Tapan. That same evening, the headmaster returned home, had his tea, and went for a walk. So here we're going to stop and we'll continue reading in part 2 of this same chapter. See you in another video. Bye-bye.